Hey everyone, welcome to Transformation Time. Every Thursday, I host an episode of either Transformation Time or Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Diana Lizarazo, and our guest speaker is Fern Gauthier. On Transformation Time, we get to talk about, our guest speaker gets to tell us the changes they've made to get to where they are, how they've pivoted, and just to really get to learn and deep dive into their experiences so we can learn from them. I'm going to give you guys a disclaimer. Obviously you can see I'm in a different location today. I'm also babysitting my dog, and there's a cat under the bed. So you can see the drama that I may be dealing with today. So hopefully I can manage with my dog because he's been barking. Hopefully I can manage and just get him to not bark and not move my screen around. But if it is, sorry guys. And while we wait for Fern to come on, I also wanted to just let you know our next networking event is coming up next month. We just finished ours last month, and we will be having our next one coming up for next month, and it is on mindset and the mindset you need to have to be a great salesperson. So I think that's an awesome topic. I can see that Fern's on, so let me just get him in here. Oh, and actually, okay, perfect. Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. So we're so excited to have you on. And let's just get started with, you want to just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself? Where are you right now on your real estate journey?
Okay. Thanks for having me, Diana. I'm glad to be here. On my real estate journey, I kind of always, my father had properties as I was growing up, so I kind of always had a little bit of an interest there. And then when I graduated university, my first property was a fourplex. I didn't know it at the time, but I house hacked. And so I lived in one unit and rented the other three. And then that was successful. We refinanced it a few years later, bought a triplex right next door, and then did a flip. And so I call that my hobby days. When I got lucky and I did things right, and so that was good. And then about 5 years ago, I had a life change. I was looking to improve my life, and so I joined an education group called Keyspire, and decided to form a proper business and change to being a business coach. It was the first time I learned that you could actually do, invest in real estate with other people's money, and I learned about the joint venture thing that I'd never heard about before. So that was March of 2018, and then in September 2020, I replaced my income, quit my job, and here we are.
That's awesome. So let's get back to what specifically about your dad investing like caught your eye about it.
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I knew he had properties, and so I guess that was just the thing. And then when I went to university, I had friends whose so at this point my dad was out of investing, but I had friends who, their parents, you see that a lot, their parents buy them a house and they rent out rooms to their friends and kind of thing. And I always thought, oh man, I wish I could do that. So yeah, that's kind of where it all comes from. Yeah.
So it just seemed like a very interesting thing that you just saw him doing it, and you're like, other people are doing it. I need to jump on that bandwagon.
Well, I could see it. It kind of made sense to me. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, my parents also did invest in properties. And for me, it was actually the whole thing of like tenants paying off. Sorry, it's my dog. And the whole thing of the tenants paying off my mortgage. I was just like, that's amazing. I was like, people do this. I was like, how can, I'm like, why isn't everyone doing this?
wasn't actually my experience because getting back, so my dad, he probably sold all his properties in 2000 or in '89 when interest rates went through the roof. So there was a bit of a negative actually experience there. So I don't know why I still kept the interest.
Probably just the influence around, right? And like you said, you saw other people doing it in university, so you're just like, yeah, might as well check it out and see what it's about. So you were saying that you also had a point where you're basically ready to pivot and just see how you can run real estate as a business and grow. Just curious, like what caused you, what was that pivoting point? What was the deciding factor to just make you really start thinking how you can do this as a business?
Yeah. Um, yeah, well, the short answer is I got divorced. And then as part of that, uh, I wasn't able to keep the matrimonial home, and so it was that hurt of, and I find pain is a big motivator sometimes, often, and then so is that hurt of, my financial position, my lack thereof, uh, meant that we had a nice waterfront home, dream home on the waterfront. So that losing that was my driving force, and then the other thing was I, uh, I had this Mike Tyson meme post about everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, and so for me with young daughters it was about yeah, you get punched in the face but you get back up and you get back up stronger, and so I kind of wanted to get that message to the kids. And then I had a friend come to me and he's like, well, you did real estate in the past, why not get into real estate again? And well, I just went through a divorce, so I don't have money. And so I was looking at the property management. I wasn't liking what I was seeing in terms of, starting out as a new property manager, you're getting the slumlord type properties. And that's not I've learned that's not the type of property management I wanted to do. And then as soon as I saw joint ventures where I now have a beneficial interest in the property and how that property is managed, I learned from experience, the better quality your apartments, the better quality tenants you attract. And so I knew right from then that was the model that I wanted to pursue.
Oh, so interesting. So a friend got involved and kind of just like reminded you of what you had done and why not just get into that?
Yeah.
And obviously, like you said, your motivations to just want to do better and make sure that you were good for, like for your kids. That's amazing. And to be honest, I feel like it's exactly what you said, right? There's always something big that happens that motivates you to move forward in life and just want to make that pivoting change. That's, like either something lacking or just anything. There's always something there. Just like, I feel like for some reason when something big happens, I feel like it is normally like some kind of rock bottom. Like for me, it was like boredom, falling apart in my job. Like I was just like, I'm very a person, like I love mental stimulation. And I went from a consulting type job to like a union type job. So it was such a different pace. I went to like go, you're gonna get fired, if you're not excelling at your best. So I was used to that like very quick environment to union where it's like you can almost like I would see people doing things that if I did that in my previous job, I would have been like go like in a second. And so me, it was that, it was just like my mind felt like it hit rock bottom. Like it was just like, I need something to like push me forward, because if I'm not, I'm like going to probably hit like some kind of deep depression of like, this life sucks,
And
Yeah.
I'm a big, when life gives you lemonade, make lemons, or when I give you lemons, make lemonade. It's like, what can you learn from those negative experiences that are happening to us? Turn it into a positive.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also when it comes, like, even just talking about like personal development, like, that's how we keep on expanding as people, right? It's like taking that situation and figuring out what can I learn from that? How can I improve to make, my life and everyone around me better? So that's amazing. That's great that you saw, because I think that's also something that a lot of people don't have, that kind of self-awareness to see those kind of things, which is very, very important. So when you started getting into real estate and more looking at it as a full-time job and really getting into it, how was the whole, like, how scary was OPM for you? Was that like a very daunting thing, or you felt very confident and it wasn't?
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. It wasn't a scary thing for me. I guess I knew from my passion, I knew that it was a good thing. And so with that confidence of knowing that I'm bringing good deals to the table, I've always had that confidence behind me. It's kind of funny. There's been times where I've tried to venture outside the model and I myself might not be 100% on the numbers, and I've learned that if I'm ever not 100% for any one thing, it's like it comes through, and, and I don't do the deal. So it's
I agree.
so it comes from my own confidence in the deal and knowing that I am doing the right thing.
I agree. Actually, for me, it was funny. It's like you said, like for me though, I had a lot of fear, but I noticed when I had that deal and I was like, this is amazing. Like you feel like that, like who wouldn't want to take this deal? And you're right, right? The confidence shows because you're just like, these numbers are amazing. And then like that, everyone's coming to you and they want to be involved in it. And then when there's a deal where you feel very like, it's a little like iffy. You don't trust even in the deal yourself, and exactly like it doesn't get funded because you're just like, yeah, who's gonna, want this or wait for it to cash flow maybe 3, 4 years or whatever, like it's so it is true. The confidence is definitely helps a lot. So
Well,
what part of real? Sorry, go
I
on.
know what I know now. It's not actually about the deal; it's about you, right? So, and I've never
Yes.
thought of myself as a salesman, and so it's kind of funny. I'm glad I wasn't aware of that concept back in the day because I probably would have been a little bit more self-conscious.
Yes, and I think actually you're right, right? That whole, especially the stigma around salespeople, because that is what you're doing. I mean, and what we do, we're always selling ourselves the deals, even when you're finding the right, like team members, it's just you're always in sales mode. And it is true, if you're used to that view of salesmen are bad or they don't like the way they like talk and things like that, um, you know, you have that negative notion around it. Like that was actually one of the things that was hard for me. Sorry, my dog. That was hard for me was that view of it because I was just like I don't want people to think I'm scamming them, because I feel like a lot of people see salesmen as scammers, but it's because it was the old way, or maybe I mean some of them were scammers, right? But it was just like a different way of selling where now I feel like you're taught different or they're teaching. I feel like sales has been changing, like the way you talk about it and stuff. I don't know. What are your opinions on it?
Well, I guess my knee-jerk reaction to that is maybe it's just because we're more exposed to it, so our mindset has shifted that we're more okay with it. But oh, did you freeze on me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
is it freezing for you?
I'm good now.
Are you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see you fine.
Yeah, for me, that's a big step outside my comfort zone. I'm an introvert, and so the whole, going up and talking to strangers in a networking room and stuff is way, way, way outside my comfort zone. So that's certainly a thing I've had to get get used to.
And how did you get over it? That's interesting. I'm also an introvert. I'm curious to hear how you got over it, or not even got over it. I don't think you get over it, but how you coped with it, I guess, is more what I feel like happens.
That's funny. You know what I did? I became that guy in the lineup at the grocery store that would talk to people in line, which I always thought was that's the weird guy. That's how I practice. I would make a concerted effort of practicing there because it's like I'll never see these people again. So that's something, and yeah, that's one thing I've. But
And then
yeah,
you
no,
try to do anything to just try to get comfortable with it, right?
it's about putting yourself in the situation, then you get more and more comfortable.
Mhm. And I think it's also like basically what sounds that happened to you is that you realize you have to be able to talk to people. And so that kind of motivates you. You're like, I need to practice. And so I need to find a way that will help me. Sorry. I need to find a way that will help me get better at it like that. Like for example, one of the reasons I do these shows is actually for my learning experience, to be honest, to learn how to speak in public, because I find it completely terrifying. I mean, it's not like being in front of people, but it's like a next step forward to be able to just feel comfortable around people.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
but what was, for example, pardon?
Networking group there were no networking groups, meetups in Kingston. So I'd started one of those as well. So that was a, partly to build credibility when hey, invest with me with a joint venture. I've never done a deal before. So it's part of building the credibility there, but it was also, here I'm running a meeting and I'm out talking to people, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
But for example, so you also host networking events, and are you speaking in front of people, or for example, like how did that experience go for you, like that as an introvert and like being around people, groups of people and stuff?
Well, so I'm an introvert, but my previous life I used to teach at Queen, so I was an instructor, and so it was always so I'm even though I'm an introvert, I'm used to being in front of a group. So
Oh, okay,
that,
so that part wasn't a big deal.
my education background, there was and so that filled that niche as well. So I was okay with that.
Mm. And what about though, for example, after you're talking to a group of people, or was it like, but you'd be talking in front of people, but then when you had to go, let's say, walk in the crowds, was that kind of like, did that make you nervous, or like, did you approach it in a certain way to make yourself feel comfortable?
Uh, I think for me anyway, the being the leader of that group and running that group, that gives me my confidence of people are approaching you rather than you have to approach people. I think that's the hurdle that helps get me
Yeah.
over.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Because I remember for me, it was what I had to do, and I think this is an introvert quality. I'm curious to hear what you say of it. But for example, for me, I actually can't do the group conversations, like the general conversations. I'm more of a one-to-one speaker. So I like to kind of like deep dive into people's lives and actually go into more detailed stuff. And that's how actually I got comfortable with going into rooms and speaking with people. It's like I would find like the person that's alone or kind of like isolated, and I just go talk to them. That was like my strategy of how I tried to cope with like dealing with big rooms of people. Do you feel like it was kind of like similar in that sense for you?
Very much so. Even in my tight friends group, if we're more than one other person in a big friends group, I'll be the quiet one of the group. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're right.
So
I didn't go into it until you said it, but at the networking events, you're right. I'll go approach the single person that's alone.
yeah, it was, I guess for me, it was so severe of like a fear that it's just like something I noticed with me, or it was something that people made me aware of, like that. Like I would be so quiet and be like, "What's wrong with you? Are you okay? This and that." And I'm like, "No, I'm totally fine, just chilling here, and I'm fine." But then, they make you feel like very awkward because you're just sitting, and like it's like not normal. And then so then I was just like, okay, how do I talk to people, and and because like that, like I just couldn't get the whole group thing, didn't make sense to me. Like I really struggled to do the general group conversations. Whoa, sorry, my dog. And so I just like, that's the approach that I ended up taking to be able to start. And I feel like, as you get older, like as an adult, you're like, I kind of need to learn to speak to people and not just isolate myself.
But I should be over this by now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so when you started getting into, doing, so you found the money and getting into your deals, and like, did you actually go get in, like, did you start your own group first Like you probably did the OPM projects first and then started your group afterwards, or which one kind of came first?
Uh, no, I was looking for the JV partners first.
Hmm.
Uh, we actually did do our first, well, we didn't close on it yet, but we had offered on our first property before we started the meetup group. Um, yeah, that was, we started pretty quickly, I guess. So it all kind of smushed in,
Kind of
jammed in
went
all together.
together at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. So, yeah, that came from a brainstorming session in the summer. Okay, like I said, right, I would have joined in March and brainstormed over the summer, and so it made sense. September made sense to start the networking group. Um, and there we go. So, no, that came after. It was just, yeah. It also came out of a bit of a need. There was not such a group here in Kingston, so it was. I find that those networking groups, those meetups, energize me, and so I'm really missing
Hmm.
me. And I haven't been getting it from online, from the Zoom. So I'm glad that things are picking back up again.
Yeah, exactly. I hear you. And so when you started, because you, like you said, you kind of started actually moving quite quickly, right? You started your first OPM project, and then, also then your project, like you started building your group. With that, what kind of changes did you see in yourself that you had to start making to start leveling up to do those kind of things?
Yeah. So that first summer after when I started the business was a pretty transformative summer for me. I was um, uh, you learn part of business is that you work on the business, but you also work on mindset and personal development. And I had taken this program, this online course. It was actually Robin Sharma, who is the author of Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and 5 a.m. Club. So I'd signed up for a course, an online course that he was offering, and that was a pretty transformative course. It's when I started meditating. It's when I started journaling. Waking up. I subscribed to his idea of 5 a.m. club, waking up at 5 a.m. and getting a bunch of work done before the kids wake up. All of that stuff. So that was a big transformation, and I actually laugh. I look back and the 5 year ago me would laugh at the me now of today, because the 5 year ago me would have thought all of that stuff is, believing that the universe is going to manifest you can manifest your goals, and the universe will listen. Like, that's the 5 year ago me would have thought that's all hogwash, hooey stuff. So I've definitely gone through a
That's funny. I
personal.
hear you in that sense. Oops, sorry, cut out that last part.
Yeah, no, I thought you were talking to us. That stopped.
Oh, I was just saying that it is really funny how those things happen, or even reflecting how is, for example, if you reflect back now to where you were before, or when did you have that point in time when you looked back and you were in shock of what you had done? Like, how was that feeling to look back and just see even the young you, like who you thought you were going to be, and and who you are now.
Yeah, well, if I go back to the young me and where I am now, definitely never would have thought I'd be here. Like, so my previous job, I said I'm teaching at Queen, so I have a PhD in molecular biology. How does that relate to real estate? Right, my passion was always in biology and science, and so they're quite different fields there as far as that goes. Um, but where they compare is in the solving problems, right? When you're investing in real estate, there's often you're encountering problems, and I see that. I have a full-time assistant now, and I see that when she comes to me with a challenge, and I'm like, yeah, problem solving ability is a skill that you really need to have. Anyway, but so yeah, I definitely didn't think I would be at this level back in the day. I certainly had an interest in real estate, but never thought it would be at this level. And then I guess uh, yeah, having the wow moment of where I am now versus before. Yeah, you know what? I need to remind myself more of that. I've recently read The Gap and the Gain for that very reason. It's a book about reminding yourself when you're going through right? Again, we talk about challenges. There's always going to be challenges. And so when you're going through those challenges, it's important to remind yourself that things are pretty good compared to where they were 5 years ago, right? And so that one's a work in progress, to be honest. That's kind of actually where my focus is now. I'm less focused on more doors, and I'm more focused on mindset and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's awesome. And just something that I actually wanted to point out that you said, which I think is a great thing when it comes to like that transferring skills that you already had, is that like yes, have a PhD, has nothing to do with buying properties, but where the skills came in that you used from your past was problem solving skills. And these were the same, they're just different types of problems. And because that's the same thing with me. I'm an electrical engineer and I love solving problems. So I remember people would tell me the same thing. They'd be just looking at me like, how do you transition to that? Why, like, one is non-related to the other. And to me, I was just like, it is to me. I'm like, I love solving problems. I find that so interesting. To me, it doesn't matter where I solve the problems, like in what area. To me, it's just like, there's an issue, let me figure it out. Like, to me, it's like, let me figure out how to put this puzzle together because it's super interesting. So I just wanted to highlight that because I find that it's very important for even the viewers to see that, right? Because a lot of people think they're coming into real estate and they think, oh, I don't have the skills to get into real estate. I don't know anything, for example. And it's really, there is a lot that you do know coming from wherever you're coming from. There's always skills that you can use that can be used in the real estate area too. So I thought that was a great thing that you brought up, and I wanted to highlight it because it is important that people know that, you can always use your past skills to get into real estate.
Yeah, sorry if I timed out I guess this is the first time I'm on a live more than a half an hour on Instagram because I had this big error message coming up that it was going to close on me, so I was panicking there for a second.
Oh,
Anyway,
no problem. Did you get a chance to hear what I said, or did it time out for you?
so I got the idea. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's not, and the other transferable skill that I found was just in goal setting, and because there's a lot of there's some long-term goals with this, and you gotta stay it's not self-motivated, you have to stay inspired for a long period of time, and
yeah. Keep
that
that motivation there for what you want, right? For your goals, your big goals.
yeah.
So actually, what got you into, like you said, the old you would have thought mindset is mambo jumbo and like what, like it's like magic hoo-ha or whatever. So what happened for you to start realizing that maybe there is something to mindset and like setting the goals and trying to find your desires and all this?
Yeah, again, it goes back to that first summer and that course I took. So my very first meetup that I went to, I had somebody ask me what my why was, and my number one why is always going to be my girls, my daughters, and so that was my answer. And remember, I just also gone through a divorce, so that was that's as far as deep as I could go at that time. So, but this fellow investor, she was like, okay, well, that's the warm and fuzzy why, but what's your bigger purpose? And at the time, I was a little ashamed because I didn't have a bigger purpose. But that's not the mindset I was at then, right? I was still going through the pain of the breakup and stuff. But I took the question seriously, and that's what led me to taking this course. Like it was a 2-month daily activity course that, you know, the main focus was on mindset and stuff. And I had some, you know, one of the biggest on top of the you know, meditation and journaling and you know, and even just goal setting. One of the bigger lessons that I remember from that that I just recently revisited was you know, sitting down and writing down what your core values are. You know, what are your top 5 core values, and in order, and because the pitch for the module was, you know, when you're relating to invest, or, you know, when you're relating to your clients and whatnot, you know, find out what their core values and relate to them on their core values and stuff. And I remember at that time having an aha moment in that it also answered my questions as to why the marriage broke down. And so but the point being is it's really important. Getting to your purpose, the first, you know, in that, what that came to was the first step is identifying what are your values, what are your, you know, your core values that drive you. And as I said, I revisited that more recently, and I went through, in the last couple of years, I went through a thing where I kind of lost track of that. I had, you know, during COVID, so my number one core value is family. And family and relationships. And I kind of lost track of that. I used, you know, from the business standpoint, COVID was very good to me because I ground, and, you know, but I lost track of that number one core value. And so I was, you know, last March, I was hurting. I had, you know, I reached 2 goals, 2 major, my 2 big personal wise was when I first started, it was quit my job and get to 20 properties. And I had just, in the September before I had done that, and then in February I reached 20 properties. And so I was struggling a bit. It was like, I don't have a bigger why and stuff. And I had just presented at Keyspire invited me to present at one of their summits as a story of success. And, you know, outside looking in, you know, everything's great. I just won an award and the business is doing well. But inside I was in a lot of pain. I felt a bit of a fraud, to be honest, and I was struggling. And, you know, back to the universe. The universe provides. Within a month of that, I was sitting in another meetup, and a woman, you know, this investor who's been invested for like 10 years, and she shared her story, and it was exactly that. 3 years in, won awards, was feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and I knew she had, and part of that story was she was in line at a workshop and met a coach who their task was, what do you have to do to take the summer off? And then I reached out to her. I go, I know you do coaching, you do real estate coaching, but I don't want real estate coaching. I want the coaching that other coach gave you. And through working with her, I shifted my mindset from, you know, at the time I was like, I reached my goal of 20 properties. I had 43 doors. I'm like 100 doors by the end of the year. Not for any good why, no good why for that. And it sounded like a good number. To shifting more on you know, getting back to, you know, what are my values? My values are family. I got to free up my time. My time's more valuable now. And so I have to remind myself that that's the driving force, or what are the values that I'm working for. So I'm money motivation is not the one not a big motivator for me. It's accomplishment, but above that is relationships and freedom.
100%. That's a great point. And I think actually many things that you've said there like are great points. Like one of them was, you know, once you meet your really big goal, you kind of go into a lull type of like, I feel like you get lost because you're like, okay, I did it. And when it's big like that, because you got financial freedom and, you know, you met your goals of the houses and everything. And so it kind of puts you, well, now what? Because like exactly what you're saying, then money doesn't become a factor because you're like, I have it, I'm good, I'm happy. Like, okay, fine, I'm making, let's say 20,000 a month, let's say. What
But
is
I wasn't
adding
happy.
100 a month? Pardon, go on.
I wasn't happy because that's one of my the values is with the freedom is the happiness that that is supposed to bring. But so yeah, sorry I interrupted you, but
No, 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 that's okay. But you're saying you weren't happy, but because you didn't know where you were though, right? You kind of like accomplished your
you're bang
goals
on.
and
Yeah,
pardon?
you were bang on. It's like now what?
Yes, yeah. You know why I know? Because I just went through it in October, November, where I also became financially free, and I was like, woohoo, done, accomplished. And then I was like, and then and then I got scared. Like actually, for me, my second weekend of now just me running my own business, my mind was like, get back to your job. You're crazy. Now you have to do this all by yourself and like you're nuts. And my mind was kind of playing tricks on me and wanting me to go back. Although my mind would say that and then me was like, are you joking? Like you love this. You get to choose your time and whatever. So it was like a little mental struggle. But after that, I set my next goal. I was like, okay, this is my next goal and it didn't motivate me in any way because it was a money goal and I was just like okay, I'm gonna reach this goal and what, I was just like I felt like I was in limbo. For I was in limbo, I think probably around 6 months. I just kind of couldn't get out of the funk, like just going through it. and um
Time the
and
market is going crazy.
yeah, and it's just it was, and so that's why I say like I understand, and a lot of people that like so that's what I was saying, like once you reach your financial freedom, money doesn't really matter so much anymore. It's not, you're not doing things for the money because it's been done, in the sense of like you have what you need. And then getting to the next level is like, what is that next level, because it's not a money level, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And you're gonna say?
it's challenging what to once you have that freedom to because right here's the thing with your comfort zone, right? Once you've expanded your comfort zone, well that's your new comfort zone, and so your comfort zone is always, and so to expand to the next level, it's another level of discomfort, and so yeah, you still have to have a big motivating why to step out of that comfort zone.
Or something to change you. I'm going to tell you my next goal, because since we have similar problem solving types, we may have similar mentalities with maybe the way we think. So my next goal was to add another 25 initially. This was my first goal because I was like, I need to go bigger. And it's always they always say like use a financial one because it's an easy measure. But you obviously have like, what are you supposed to do with that 20? Like for me, it was 25,000 a month. I was like, okay, I'm going to now add another 25,000 a month. And then I had what that meant behind, right? But it didn't stimulate me. I was just like very blah about the whole thing. I didn't get it. But then I was at a seminar where they're like, why don't you make what you used to make in a year, bring it down into a month? And what that makes you do, I found it really interesting, because now I was like, okay, my job before I used to get about 120K a year. So then I was like, okay. And then the thing that I found very fascinating with making this goal, so this is now my goal, is instead of 25K is 120K in a month, that I have that goal that I'm trying to achieve. What happened is that it makes you grow, because now you're thinking, how many people do I need to serve again? And I mean, I'm saying this just to tell you like what it's supposed to do, because obviously everyone has their own goals, but what I really liked it is like it challenged my mind, because now it's like, how do I do this? Like you have to grow as a company, and just figuring out like what do I have to do to help people for me to reach that goal? And it became like, when you're getting into bigger numbers, it becomes more of a subservient type of goal. Like, how can I help others so that I can reach my goal? And that has, at least for me, that has set my motivation because now I'm thinking in a different sense. Now I'm just thinking more about how I can help more people at once. Um, and then in that, like, there's just so many things because now you're having to figure out, like, you have to hire enough people to make this happen. You have to set systems in place, bigger systems in place, and just open up your mind to the possibilities of what to do to make that actually something that can really happen. So personally, to me, that really, I actually ended up loving it because it just made my mind start tinkering, and I'm like searching online and I'm like, how do people get big? Like, what did Bill Gates do? Like, how did he, you know what I mean? Like, it was like one of those things. I don't know if that helps, but I just wanted to
What I
share it because, go ahead.
what I'm hearing is it sounds to me like that's the 10x principle, right? It's just as much work to go 2x as it is 10x, but you have to think at a different level to go 10x. And you know what? If you aim for
Exactly.
10x and hit 2 or 3x, you're still doing pretty damn well, right? And so that's kind of the
Yeah.
mentality of
Well,
the
it's
Grant Cardone.
also, I think, yeah, it's about like thinking differently, right? Like now it's like that. Like for now, I'm all about like my mind and how to expand my mind and how to open my mind. And maybe I'm not explaining it properly, but it was more like setting that bigger goal that will make your mind expand and make it actually think. Because, for example, like that for my 25, sorry, Rusty, for that 25,000 it was there was no change to my business to make that happen. Like it literally wasn't making any change happen to even me as a person. I could keep with what I'm doing, and I would achieve my goal. So what they're saying is like you got to go bigger because you need a goal that changes you as a person, and that's what I actually really enjoyed about it because that is what for me I'm like it's all about the mind. I feel like I just want to like expand my mind, grow my mind.
Well, again, I think what I'm hearing is one of your core values is growth and accomplishment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's high for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. For me, it's getting my time back so that I can have more time with my family and relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
100%.
it's growing to a point where I can have the systems in place where I can run the business from a beach.
100%. Yeah, like that. Like you're trying to, yeah, your goal is how can I free up my time, make my business big enough that it doesn't need me because it needs to have like everyone in place to be able to actually run efficiently, properly.
Right? You want to go 10 times, you need to have the systems. Mine is also similar. I need to grow to have the systems, but for a different end goal.
Yeah. But no, but that's what I mean, right? It is about growth just in different ways, right? Like that. Like for you, it's like how are you going to grow so that you can have the time that you want, that to give you for your family and whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very interesting.
Number of doors or a monetary value. My goal is what do I need to grow to get to the next higher? The next higher, right? Because every higher means less time working in the business.
100%. Completely agree. Any final last thoughts that you would like to share?
Yeah, there's one thing that it didn't come up that I was thinking ahead of time that's I think was pivotal in my growth was hiring a coach. Um, uh,
Yes, good.
I was fortunate that we did do a deal pretty quickly early on in our first year, but that was our only deal that first year. And then I hired a coach and then did 10 deals my second year kind of thing. So, hiring a coach is something we hadn't talked about. It's another thing. It's
Mhm.
pays for itself tenfold.
Yeah. It is 100%. It just gives you that leg up, and they make you accountable or push you, because I think without a coach, you allow your fears to kind of get the best of you, and you're probably like, oh, one is probably enough, like I don't want to put myself in a strange situation where I'm gonna, whereas like your coach kind of is there to push you and help you realize that it is possible and like remove those fears or make it logical.
For me, the fear that the coach got me over is my first year I was looking at, because I still had my full-time job, so I was looking at turnkey small multis, right? Something that was relatively easy to manage. And but what exploded my business is when I added secondary suite conversions, which, that wasn't going to happen until after I quit my job. But my coach came to me and she was like, "I'll coach you through it. You're not going to lift a hammer. You're going to be able to run this." That's what it's about.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think like that as you get into real estate, I think that you really start understanding the importance and just that level up they give you, like why go through all the problems yourself when you can like just kind of skip some of those. I mean, you'll never skip all of them because there's always going to be problems that come up, but at least you skip the basic ones and it helps you just give you that level up to move faster and the confidence to go through them faster.
Yep. Yep. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do and hire them as a coach.
100%.
My most recent, my pivot this year is to get into cottage rentals. So I've now hired a coach that's done cottage rentals and is about 2-3 years ahead of me in that field. So
amazing. And actually that's another great point that you're actually stating is that even though you have all this experience, you're still always using a coach, and you understand the importance of it because it's the same with me. Same thing. I've been hiring coaches. Same thing. I do something new, and I'm like, okay, next, like I need another coach that does that. And it is very important to just keep on leveling up and finding the right people that will help you, because I don't know. I think unless if you stay in the exact same thing and don't change, you will always, I feel like, need a next coach to help you level up to the next level that you want to go to.
Yep, agreed, 100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun to chat with you and a fellow introvert. So very good. Always love talking to my fellow introverts.
Yep.
And so if anyone would love to connect with Fern, feel free to connect with them. Figure out, you have your group in Kingston, you said. So if you guys are in Kingston, then definitely you want to connect with him and get into his group. And if you like what you hear, you like watching my shows, definitely follow me, connect with me too. Thank you so much, Fern, for coming on. It was awesome to have you on.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Bye, everyone. Bye, Fern.